Hi there. Today's September 17th, I believe. Yes. So I know I've been quiet for the past week or so, and a lot of people are probably wondering. Well, actually, probably not a lot of people, like two or three of you, but there are people out there wondering what has been going on with my Dungeons of Dagrath port. And I'm happy to say that there is progress, but a little disappointed to say that it's not anything I can really show you. Um, Before I can really start implementing game elements, I have to get a lot of the underlying systems working first. As I've shown in a previous video, I have the dungeon generator working, and that's good. And I now have a really good Amiga screen suitable for this purpose, and I have keyboard input working. I spent way too much time on this because I wanted to do it raw. I didn't want to use Amiga OS to get keyboard input. Um, Even doing it the quote proper way was a little difficult for me because I had a couple of misunderstandings on how Windows and screens handle interprocess communication message ports. So, in reality, that took way longer than it should have for me. Now, for the fuselage engine for the Amiga, I want to do everything directly through the hardware, and that was what I attempted to do at first, but I was having trouble getting it working the way I wanted, so I've kind of postponed that for this project. I mean, really, what it comes down to is we can get by with single key press information for a game like this. Now, for something more timing critical, we're going to want real time polling of the input hardware, and I'm going to need to do that as well for the CD32 pad controls. So uh, this will work for now for getting the game in a playable state. I can work on doing things a little bit more, I guess you could say, authentic uh, in the future. But for now, that's going to work. So now that I've finally gotten that out of the way, next comes rendering the dungeon to the screen. I started on that, and I had taken a couple of different approaches. One was to do a direct translation from the original to the Amiga, and I gave up on that and then started trying to re implement my own. But then I decided maybe I should go back to doing it directly because I'm afraid that if I start altering the mechanics and how things are drawn on the screen, that when it comes to actually implementing other game features, I may make things difficult for myself. Basically, if I reinvent one part, I might find myself having to reinvent other parts. And my ultimate goal is to make this game as authentic to the original as possible. Now, I may update the graphics and stuff, but the original intent is going to be a one for one gameplay recreation. I want the timing to be the same. I want the sound effects. I want the graphics to be the same. I can look at changing all that once I have the recreation done. So I want all of the gameplay mechanics, even like all of the probabilities of monster spawns and all of that. I want to try to mimic the original behavior as perfectly as possible. So while it would be really easy to just recreate the game, making a bunch of assumptions, uh, things like monster health and damage and stuff like that, I want to try to extract as much information from the original source as I can in this recreation so that I don't take liberties with the implementation of certain game mechanics. Things like how long a torch stays lit and stuff like that. I want those to be absolutely timing perfect. I mean, the original game had like a scheduler, and it kept track of timing events with what they call jiffies and ticks, and so I want to get all of those timing elements as accurate as possible, and I want them to even be accurate whether you're playing on an NTSC or PAL Amiga. So keeping all of that stuff like as faithful as possible means understanding how it was done in the first place. So I've kind of taken a step back from the whole let's just draw the graphics that look like the original graphics, and now I want to actually try to use the original source code to figure out exactly how they were determining the graphics would be drawn. And then while I may be drawing them on the Amiga using the Amiga's hardware, in a more modern fashion. I still want the back end determination on what's being drawn to be as close to the original as possible, just to try to keep all that behavior intact. Like things like if you typed turn around in the original game, there was an animation of you going from forward to the side and then looking backward. I want to keep all of those elements as true to the original as possible, and that probably won't be easy to do if I just go recreating everything. And so I'm having to look at all of that as I'm working on this, and it's not been straightforward as easily straightforward as I thought it was going to be. So I just wanted to make this update to let you guys know that the project is still going on. I'm working on it, not as much as I would like to. Work has been kind of busy for me lately, and I haven't really felt all that good. So between being a little bit run down and working a lot of hours, I really haven't had a lot of time to work on this. But I am taking the opportunity to. What the was that? Oh, controller shut down for inactivity. Anyway, I digress. Um, yeah, so I am taking the opportunity to at least study some of the code when I can't be at a computer where I can work on it. I do bring up the source code on my iPad or phone, and sometimes I cut and paste bits of it into Claude or ChatGPT, and I have them explain to me what's going on with the original 6809, because I'll be the first to admit, not really an expert with 6809. In fact, I don't think I ever actually wrote a full-fledged program other than your most basic Hello Worlds and stuff like that. In 6809, it was I learned it when I was a kid, and my understanding of assembly was built on a lot of misunderstandings and misconceptions. I'm much older now, so obviously, I mean, you look at me, I'm not a kid anymore. But my understanding of assembly is much stronger, but that doesn't mean that I can take what I know and I automatically apply everything to 6809. I mean, yes, there's a lot of concepts that I understand much better these days, but I still need AI to tell me what all the opcodes do and what they're trying to do in the little routines. Well, the best thing about the source code that's available is it's pretty well documented, all things considered. So that's made things a lot easier, and when that isn't helpful enough, there's actually a couple of modern C and C++ ports to Windows and Linux, and you can find those in GitHub as well. And between scouring the code of those and looking at the original source code, this Amiga port has not been that troublesome. Most of the trouble I've had so far is stuff that I wanted to implement that I think may have been a little bit beyond the scope of this project. For those who don't know, I am working on a virtual machine game engine thing. I don't know how you would classify it. As far as I know, nothing like this has ever really been done before. But it's an emulator for a system that never existed. It's called Fuselage VM, and you can find more information about that on other videos in this channel. But the short version of it is I'm creating a game console that plausibly could have existed in the year 2000 or so, and most of the development for it will be through a VM side, which is roughly a RISC-V inspired virtual machine. Anyway, I'm also doing an Amiga version of this game engine, which is going to use a lot of the same features, scaled back, of course, limited by the Amiga's hardware. But I want it to be possible for a developer to write a game on the Amiga using Fuselage, and then take almost that exact same code, bring it over to Windows, and use the same program to build the same game using Fuselage VM. The idea would be that you could make a classic style retro game on the Amiga and then cross-compile it on Windows and Linux and Mac and have the same game, one on an actual vintage game computer and the other on a modern system. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to work in the opposite direction. You're not going to make a game with Fuselage VM and then easily backport it to the Amiga without making some major concessions. But, I mean, theoretically, it should at least be possible to make a game that's similar on both systems. Anyway, while Dungeons of Daggorath doesn't really tap into any of the features and strengths of Fuselage, I did decide to use it as a test bed for implementing some things in Fuselage on the Amiga, including things like the screen handling and the input handling. I do want to have CD32 pad support in Fuselage, and therefore by extension in Dungeons of Daggorath. Not really sure how that's going to work yet. I got to get the game built before I can decide how to control it. But I would like to have a kind of one-to-one button mapping to input command, like pick up, drop, store, attack, move, all those mapped to the CD32 pad somehow. And I think I can make that work. So at some point, I'm going to have a very low level input handler for the CD32 pad, and of course, the classic typing commands for Dungeons of Daggeroth will still work as well. Uh, so now that I've got the input handler for the keyboard input working in a usable state, it's not how I would like to implement it, but it's working. I can replace it with something better in the future, but it's working well enough for this project. Now I can concentrate more on the dungeon rendering, which, like I said, my analysis of the original code and kind of figuring out how it's done has been less than productive, but I think I understand things a little bit better now. So hopefully, as long as work doesn't keep me buried, I will have something to show within a week, maybe. I don't know. I hate to make predictions on how long things take because I'll be honest, there's days I don't even look at a computer. I mean, other than maybe browsing, Amazon or scrolling through Facebook or something. I mean, I don't sit down and do any actual real work if I can help it. Sometimes I just want to play a game or, doom scroll social media or whatever, or go into chat rooms and talk to friends. Sometimes I don't want to look at a bit of code. But other times I get hyper fixated and knock out huge portions in like a big stretch of like 8 hours. So it's kind of hard to say when the next video is going to show some major progress, but I do anticipate, at least by the end of the month, having something that resembles the game, even if all of the mechanics aren't implemented. So I really think that's all I've got for now. Um, I know this has not been a great video, just staring at a workbench screen or just a black screen, but hopefully it won't be too much longer before there's more to share. So, in the meantime, have some sausage, drink some beer, play some games, and try to stay alive.